Hey, welcome to Graphic Policy Television, GPTV. Right in my hands is The Search for Who, the 5-issue series that was published by AfterShock. It's written by John Tsuei and Steve Orlando. Rubine is the artist. Might be Rubine. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. I'm not sure which it is. DC Alonso is the colorist. Carlos M. Mangual is the letter. So this is a really, really interesting series, and I dug it a lot for probably reasons I think a lot of people might not necessarily notice. So the story is about this guy named Tsuei who leaves the military and comes back, and there's a hit on his parents. His mom and his dad are shot by unknown assailants. Aaron's mom reveals the truth that she fled China due to a war between the two sides of her family, a Chinese family, part of the family, and a Jewish side of the family. And they're kind of big organized crime clans going at it. It's the Who's and the Margolis. But the peace has been broken, war has broken out, and Aaron's gotten dragged into it. So the thing I really like about it, so one, it is an action story with two crime families going after it. The bad, I'll start with it. I think it's very obvious as to who's behind the hit. But here's the good of it. The good is there is the fact that it's not just two Chinese families going at it, I think it is really cool. The fact that one of the families is Jewish, I think, creates a level of detail for the story and the series that, for me, made it really stand out. It's a small thing, and I'm not going to go with like the representation matters, because that's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is like, there's a scene that really stood out to me is when a bunch of the mobsters were killed, and Aaron's relatives start saying prayers in Hebrew for them, and there were the prayers that you would say over the dead. And I think that was it's just such a small detail, but it's such a cool detail to have in there, and something that's very unexpected. I mean, this could have easily just been two Chinese families going at it. It could have been like maybe a Korean family or Chinese family or Japanese family and Chinese family. There's a lot of different things you could have gone with. But the fact that it's a Jewish Chinese family and a Chinese family, I think just makes things really, really intriguing and interesting. And it opens up a lot of what the creators did with this. There's a lot of small details to it. I think it's really cool. It's great to see. And for me, it elevated from a good mob battle story to something that's a really interesting one that kept me engaged in a little bit more. And it's funny, it's just one of those is because you're reading and you see something, you're like, oh wait, that's interesting, that's different. And to me that does mean a lot. Like, that really kind of sucks you into the story, which I think is really cool. The other thing is the beginning. Unlike the comic, I don't think this was in the comic. It talks a little about like where this story came from, and it's a real thing. There's actually a story on my end about this. But it really did happen that it was in the early 20th century. A lot, Jews obviously abandoned where they were living, either due to persecution in places like Russia or World War II. And while many think about the refugees coming to places like Israel or the United States, a lot of them actually went east as well and went to China and found refuge there. So there was a wave of Jewish refugees to China around this time, fleeing the Holocaust in Russia. And I thought it's really, really interesting. And so my story about this is, so basically like one person in my in every generation, we look the damn same. It is the weirdest thing you'd ever think of. Like, it's clearly like those are related. So I went to the Holocaust Museum. It was probably like a decade ago, and it actually had a thing about Jews who went to, I think it was China. I don't remember specifically if it was China, Japan, but it was went east. Post World War II, and there's a photo of people, and there was a person that looked exactly like me, it looked exactly like my father, looked exactly like my grandfather. And what's interesting was I believe there was like a brother that no one knew what happened to him. And there was thoughts that maybe I think he went there. Like, I vaguely remember that, or like there was something like that. There was like a relative that might have gone east. So like, it's always kind of stuck with me as like, am I related to them? It was just a very weird thing to kind of see someone that looks exactly like you that lived on the other side of the world decades before you were even like a thought. let alone born. And yeah, so like this was something like I was very aware of. Like I don't know the specifics. I don't know tons of stuff. Like I don't know that community at all. But to me, seeing it brought up in a comic, a trade, a story, whatever, it's just a really cool detail. It's like a part of history I don't think not a lot of people know about. Like if you ask people like where Jews fled after World War II or during World War II, and even the Russian persecution, I think a lot of people would say Israel, United States. Not many are going to say China. So to raise that history, I think is just really really neat. The art, the art is good. It's an action comic. It plays things off nicely. Like, the action's good. There's actually some pretty solid moments. It never goes completely over the top as far as what's going on. It keeps things fairly grounded. There's some solid like flashbacks to Aaron and his time in the military. As far as extras, there's covers on this. In this, there's a little bit about the characters themselves. As I said, there's the intro from one of the creators, John, who talks about the kind of the history that goes into it. Overall, it's a really interesting comic. If you like, mob families going at it, you'll probably dig it. As I said, like my only knock on it is I thought it was a little predictable as to who was behind everything. But hey, maybe it won't be for you. So this is out now. You can go get it, and you can find it in comic shops. We got a link beneath this video. Put in your zip code. It'll tell if a comic shop's near you. No shop, no problem. We got links where you can purchase your own. There'll be affiliate links, so you get a small percentage by doing that. You help support our site, so thank you. And speaking of support, I want to thank AfterShock for hooking us up with the review copy, and of course, thank you all for watching. If you're into comics, you can check us out every single day at graphicpolicy.com. We're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr, all at Graphic Policy, keeping it nice and consistent. So until next time, keep reading those comics, and keep it geeky. Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.